Welcome, friend. Tonight, you become a captain on a Roman warship, commanding a formidable vessel of wood and iron. So go ahead and find your most comfortable spot. Let your head sink gently into your pillow and pull the blankets up just a little higher. Allow your shoulders to relax. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out just as slowly, feeling the day's tension leave with it. I wonder, where are you tuning in from tonight? And what time is it in your part of the world? Is it late evening, or are you just starting your day in that wonderfully managed chaos of yours? Wherever you are, I am so glad we have this time together. If you enjoy our travels, a quick follow helps new friends find their way here as well. Now, let all those thoughts just drift away. The only time that matters is 2,000 years ago. You stand on the rolling deck of your ship, a navis longa. The scent of salt and pine fills the air as your crew moves with quiet purpose around you. You are a centurion, a decorated soldier of the land, but the Senate has given you the sea. The wooden gangplank shifts under your weight, a small but unsettling movement after a lifetime spent on solid ground. Your legionary sandals, studded with hobnails from marching on Roman roads, feel clumsy on the swaying timber. Reaching the deck, the wood beneath your feet is different, worn smooth by rope and water, yet solid. A sharp, clean smell of pine tar, used to seal the hull against the sea, cuts through the familiar dockside scents of salt and drying fish nets. You take a steadying breath, the air cool and damp against your face. This is your first command, a navis longa, a longship built for war. It is a world away from the dusty discipline of the Legion's barracks, and a deep uncertainty settles in your gut, a feeling you have not known since you were a raw recruit. Your eyes trace the length of the vessel. It is narrow, built for speed, with a single tall mast currently bare of its sail. On either side, rows of benches disappear into the shadowed hull, waiting for the men who will give the ship its lifeblood with their oars. At the prow, a wicked-looking bronze ram juts forward, a silent promise of the violence this ship is designed to deliver. A fellow land dweller, a marine in full legionary gear, stumbles slightly as the ship rocks with the tide, and you share a brief, knowing look of mutual discomfort. He steadies himself, his embarrassment clear, but the small moment reminds you that you are not the only soldier here learning to find his sea legs. This machine of wood and bronze feels both powerful and profoundly alien. From the stern, two men approach. The first is older, his skin weathered like old leather, and his eyes narrowed from a lifetime of staring into the bright horizon. He moves with an easy grace on the moving deck, a man perfectly at home. This is your optio, your second in command. He stops a respectful distance away, his arms crossed. His gaze is not hostile, but it is deeply skeptical, the look of a man who has seen soldiers of the land try and fail to master the sea before. He says nothing, simply waiting for your first order, his silence a heavier judgment than any words could be. He is a creature of the waves, and you can feel him assessing whether you will be an anchor or a sail for this crew. The man beside him is different. He is softer, his hands clean, and his eyes are not on you, but on the ship itself. He runs a hand along the polished wood of the railing, his brow furrowed with concern. This is the Triarchus, the ship's master and manager, a role often filled by Greeks with generations of maritime knowledge. His responsibility is the vessel itself, its maintenance, its supplies, its readiness. While the Optio sizes you up as a commander of men, the Triarchus seems to be assessing you as a potential danger to his ship. He finally looks at you, his expression polite but distant. "Centurion," he says, his voice flat, "she is ready for your inspection. The crew is assembled." Following his gesture, you see them. More than 100 men, rowers, sailors, and a small contingent of Marines stand in disciplined ranks on the main deck. They are a rough mix. Some are clearly veteran sailors, their bodies lean and wiry. Others are young, their faces betraying a nervous energy. You recognize that many are not Roman citizens, but provincials and allies from coastal cities, men who serve Rome for pay and the promise of citizenship, a historical reality that makes command a delicate balance. Their collective gaze is fixed on you, their expressions unreadable masks. This is the moment. Your first address, your prima ad locutio, will set the tone for the entire voyage. The silence is absolute, broken only by the gentle creak of the ship's timbers and the distant cry of a gull. A powerful instinct, forged over years in the Legion, urges you to be hard. You know the speeches. You could invoke the iron discipline of Rome, remind them that the penalty for insubordination is the lash, and the penalty for cowardice is death. Assert your authority with an iron fist, and they will fear you. Fear breeds obedience, and obedience wins battles. This path is familiar, a well-trodden road to respect in the structured world of the army. It would be easy to command them as you would a century of legionaries, demanding silence and immediate compliance without question. Part of you craves that simple, brutal clarity. Yet, as you look at their faces, another thought takes hold. The sea is not a battlefield of trampled earth and clear lines. It is a shifting, living thing, and these men understand it in a way you do not. A rower who fears you may obey, but a rower who trusts you will pull on his oar until his muscles tear when the storm hits. A helmsman who fears you will follow a suicidal order to the letter, but one who trusts you will offer the quiet counsel that saves the ship. On this vessel, trust might be a stronger shield than fear. This thought is unsettling, a departure from the doctrines that have kept you alive and earned you this command. This internal conflict sharpens your focus. You feel the weight of 100 pairs of eyes, each man trying to understand the kind of commander you will be. You can be the centurion they expect, a harsh voice and a heavy hand, or you can be the leader they need. The choice solidifies in your mind. You will not command them from the elevated stern castle like a distant officer. You will lead them from the deck. Taking a step forward, you plant your feet firmly, finding your balance as the ship gently rolls. You meet the gaze of the Optio, Then sweep your eyes across the assembled crew, letting them see you not just as a symbol of Roman authority, but as a man. "My name is known to you," you begin, your voice carrying clearly in the quiet harbor. "And my rank is clear. I am a soldier of the legion. I know the spear and the sword. I know the discipline of the line and the dust of the march." You pause, letting the words settle. "I do not know the sea. That is your knowledge. You are the sailors, the rowers, the hands that give this ship its life. I will not pretend to know your work better than you do." A murmur, quickly suppressed, runs through the men. This is not the speech they were expecting. This admission of ignorance is a risk, but it is an honest one. "But I do know how to fight," you continue, your voice growing harder, infused with the authority they were waiting for. "And I know our duty. We will guard the coasts of the Republic. We will hunt its enemies. On this deck, your skill and my command will merge. I will share your hardships, and you will share in our victories. The ground beneath our feet will not be as steady as I am used to, but I trust our enemies will find it even less so." A few of the men crack a smile at that, the tension on the deck easing by a visible measure. You conclude, "Serve Rome with your strength, serve this ship with your skill, and serve with honor. That is all I ask." As you finish, you dismiss the men. They break ranks, not with the crisp precision of a legion, but with the fluid purpose of sailors returning to their tasks. The atmosphere has changed. The wariness is still there, but it is now mixed with a current of curiosity, perhaps even a sliver of respect. Your optio steps forward, the deep skepticism in his eyes lessened, replaced by something closer to thoughtful consideration. He still does not smile, but the hard line of his jaw softens. He looks you over one more time, as if seeing you properly for the first time since you stepped aboard. He gestures toward the complex arrangement of ropes tied neatly to pins along the railing. "Centurion," he says, his voice a low rumble. "The men have secured the lines for harbor, but you should know the feel of them before we sail. A misplaced knot at sea can tear a sail, or, Jupiter forbid, bring down the mast." It is not an order, nor is it a criticism. It is a simple offer of knowledge, the first thread of trust being extended from his world to yours. He is offering you a crucial piece of advice, something a commander who had chosen fear over trust might never have received. The weight of this new command, with its unfamiliar language of wood, wind, and water, settles into your mind. The harbor fades behind you, its familiar sounds of merchants hawking wares and blacksmiths hammering iron replaced by a new set of noises. Your world is now defined by the groan of timber under strain and the rhythmic thump splash of the oars. Because you chose to speak to your men as a leader who shares their burdens, you find your optio standing near you, not in stiff silence, but with an air of quiet counsel. He points to the taut ropes of the rigging, the complex web of lines that holds the single large sail. "She speaks, Centurion," he says, his voice low enough for only you to hear. "You just need to learn her language. A high-pitched whine in the lines means the wind is too strong for this much sail. A deep groan from the hull means she's fighting the waves." You nod, absorbing his words, grateful for the advice he offers so freely, advice he might have kept to himself had you ruled with an iron fist alone. Days blur into a routine governed by the sun and the sea. You learn the ship's language, not just with your ears, but with your entire body. You begin to feel the subtle shift in the deck's motion that signals a change in the current, a sensation that travels up through the soles of your legionary sandals. The helmsman, a quiet man with skin tanned the color of worn leather, guides your hand on the large steering oar, letting you feel how the vessel resists or yields. He teaches you to read the water's surface, showing you how the color deepens over safe channels and lightens dangerously over hidden sandbars. Your Marines practice their drills on the pitching deck, their movements becoming more sure-footed, their balance adapting to the constant rolling motion of their new world. This is a far cry from the solid earth of the training fields, a reality that reshapes a soldier from the ground up. This constant motion and learning culminates in your first true command decision at sea. Before you lies a choice of patrol routes for this initial voyage. Your charts, carefully laid out on a small table and weighted with smooth stones, show two paths. One is a wide, established shipping lane, a straight course over deep water where merchant vessels travel. Patrolling it would be excellent for drilling the crew, for perfecting the rhythm of the oarsmen until they move as one disciplined unit without the distraction of hazards. The steady, predictable sea would build their confidence. Your triarchus, the ship's manager, clearly favors this path, as it poses the least risk to his vessel. However, a second route traces the coastline, a jagged line of inlets, cliffs, and treacherous-looking rocks. It is a smuggler's paradise and a navigator's nightmare. This path is far more dangerous, demanding constant vigilance from the lookouts and precise coordination from the rowers to navigate the winding channels. A part of you, the cautious commander, sees the wisdom in the safe shipping lane, a place to forge your men into a unit before facing a real test. Yet the soldier in you, the centurion tasked by Rome to secure this coast, feels the pull of that broken shoreline. Your duty is not just to train men, but to immediately impose Roman will on these lawless waters. The desire for a calm shakedown voyage wars with the urgent need to understand and control the territory you now command. You trace the winding coastline on the chart with your finger. A true test is the only way to forge a capable crew, and a true commander does not shy away from his duty for the sake of comfort. You make your decision. We take the coastal route, you announce, your voice firm. The triarchus gives a slight, almost imperceptible shake of his head, but he says nothing, turning to relay the orders. The helmsman simply nods, his eyes already scanning the distant cliffs. You feel the weight of this choice settle upon you. It is one thing to command men on solid ground, where the consequences of a mistake are measured in yards of dirt. Here, a miscalculation could be measured in the splintering of your ship's hull against unseen rocks. The change in course brings an immediate change in the ship's rhythm. The steady, meditative splash of the oars gives way to a more complex and demanding cadence. The hortator, the officer who sets the pace for the rowers, now calls out sharp, varied commands, his mallet striking the wooden block in quick, uneven beats. "Port side, easy! Starboard, pull hard!" he shouts, guiding the ship through a narrow channel between two stony outcrops. Down on the rowing benches, you can hear the grunts of exertion from the men. The new recruits, especially, struggle to keep time, their oars occasionally clattering against each other. The air in the rowers' bay, already close with the smell of sweat and oiled wood, becomes even more strained. You hear the low grumbling, the whispers of men pushed to their physical limits by the constant, precise demands of navigating the treacherous waters. Despite the strain on the crew, your decision yields results. As you navigate a particularly tight passage with sheer cliffs rising on one side, a Marine high in the mast calls out. He points not to another ship, but to the coastline itself. Following his gesture, you see it, a narrow opening in the rock face, almost perfectly hidden by a natural overhang. It is a cove so well concealed that it would be completely invisible from the open sea. From your vantage point, threading the needle of the inshore passage, it is unmistakable. It is deep, sheltered, and large enough to hide a ship. A perfect place for illicit activity, far from the eyes of patrolling Roman vessels that stick to the safer shipping lands. You order the ship's scribe to make a detailed entry in the log, sketching the position of the cove relative to the prominent landmarks on the cliff. This small victory feels significant. Had you chosen the safe route, this smuggler's den would have remained a secret. Your willingness to accept the greater risk has already provided valuable intelligence. The grumbling from the rowers below seems a small price to pay for this discovery. You are not just patrolling the sea, you are mapping its secrets, understanding its dark corners, and extending Roman control into places it has never reached before. The water here is different, the taste of the spray sharper, the echoes of the waves against the cliffs sounding like whispers of warning and opportunity. As the day ends, you anchor in a placid bay a few miles past the hidden cove. The fires are lit in the clay cooking boxes on deck, and soon the smell of garlic and simmering lentils drift through the ship. The men eat their simple meal, their exhaustion clear in their slow movements. The tension of the day's difficult navigation has eased, replaced by the quiet camaraderie of a shared meal. You walk among them, sharing a piece of hard bread with a young Marine, asking a veteran rower about his family. Your presence, your willingness to be among them after pushing them so hard, seems to quiet the last of their complaints. They see that you do not demand hardship from a distance, you endure it with them. Later, you stand alone at the stern, watching the last light of day paint the western sky in hues of orange and purple. The sea is calm now, lapping gently against the hull. The ship feels like a living thing beneath you, breathing softly in the quiet water. You think about the land, about the clear lines of a battlefield, the certainty of a fortified wall or an open plain. The sea has no such certainties. It is a constantly shifting battleground of wind, rock, and water, where knowledge is as vital as strength. Today, you risked your ship and crew to gain a small piece of that knowledge. It feels like a worthy trade. The stars emerge, brilliant and sharp in a way you never saw them from the city, their reflections dancing on the dark water. A profound sense of isolation and responsibility washes over you. Out here, there is no legionary standard to rally behind, no cavalry to guard your flank. There is only this wooden vessel, these 100 or so men, and the choices you make for them. You have begun to learn the language of the sea, its rhythms and its secrets. You have felt its power and glimpsed its hidden dangers. The soldier of the land is slowly, steadily being reshaped by the currents and the tides. You are no longer just a centurion on a ship. You are becoming part of it. The salt seems to have worked its way not just into the wood, but into your very being. The days since you first charted the winding coastline have settled into a steady rhythm. The endless blue of the open water has been replaced by the constant presence of land to your port side, a rugged spine of rock and scrub. The crew, initially strained by the difficult navigation you chose, has now found its sea legs, their movements more certain, their complaints replaced by a quiet competence. Your optio, the veteran sailor who first watched you with skepticism, now offers his observations freely, a direct result of the trust you decided to build from that first day. He stands beside you near the stern, his gaze sweeping the horizon, his silence comfortable. The air feels cool on your skin as a breeze picks up, and you adjust your footing on the gently rolling deck, the motion now as natural to you as standing on solid ground. It is this practiced calm that is shattered by a single sharp cry from the lookout perched high on the mast. "Sail spotted! Starboard bow!" Every head on deck snaps in the same direction. You raise a hand to shield your eyes from the bright glare reflecting off the water's surface. There, hugging the coastline you now know so well, is a ship. It is not a Roman merchant vessel, with its wide hull and large square sail designed for cargo. Nor is it a warship like your own. This vessel is lean and low in the water, with a single tall mast and a triangular lateen sail, a design built for speed and sharp turns. It flies no flag to declare its origin or purpose, a clear sign of either a smuggler or something worse. Your instincts, forged in the dust and discipline of the legions, scream at you. An enemy is in sight. The proper response is to close the distance, run them down, and destroy them before they can flee. Your Marines, hearing the tension and the lookout's call, have already begun to move towards their posts, their hands resting on the hilts of their swords. The urge to give the order, "Full oars, prepare for engagement," is a physical pressure in your chest. It is the Roman way to meet a threat with overwhelming force and decisive action. A moment of hesitation could mean a lost opportunity, a failure to uphold your duty to keep these waters safe for the Republic. But before the order can leave your lips, the optio speaks, his voice low and steady beside you. "Centurion, a word of caution." He does not question your authority, but the approachable command you established allows him to offer counsel where a harsher leader might only receive silent obedience. She's fast, but she could be a simple coastal trader from one of the small Greek settlements. They often fly no flag to avoid port taxes. If we attack without provocation, we could be answering to a magistrate for weeks. The local merchants are already wary of us.
His point is a sharp one. Your duty is not just to fight, but to maintain Roman law and order. An unprovoked attack would be a violation of that law, turning allies into enemies and complicating every future patrol in this region. You find yourself torn between two versions of your duty. The soldier in you demands action, a swift and final resolution to a potential threat. The commander, responsible for the ship, the crew, and Rome's reputation, must consider the consequences. The memory of the coastline you so carefully charted flashes in your mind. Its countless inlets, its jagged teeth, the hidden coves your men noted. That knowledge, gained from your earlier choice to take the harder path, now presents an opportunity. A direct attack is a blunt instrument. There may be a smarter way. You turn to the helmsman, your voice firm, silencing the rising murmur among the crew. Do not engage. Match their course, but keep your distance. Use the coastline to mask our approach. I want to know where they are going.
A wave of quiet orders ripples across the deck. The rowers slow their rhythm, pulling with less force to reduce the splash of their oars. Your helmsman, a quiet man with an uncanny feel for the water, expertly guides your navis longa, your warship, behind a rocky outcropping, using the land as a shield. The chase becomes a tense game of observation. For what feels like an eternity, you shadow the mysterious vessel, catching glimpses of it between gaps in the cliffs. Your heart pounds with a strange mix of hunter's excitement and deep caution. The Marines remain at their stations, their initial eagerness replaced by a coiled, watchful stillness. One of them, a young recruit who still looks pale from the sea's motion, jokes under his breath about wanting to be seasick on their deck instead of his own, and a few men around him crack tense smiles. Your patience and your knowledge of this specific shoreline pays off. The swift vessel suddenly changes course, turning sharply towards a narrow, almost invisible break in the cliff face. It is the very same cove your men marked as a perfect place for illicit activity during your initial survey. Your breath catches in your throat. This is no coincidence. Had you chosen the safe patrol route, you would have seen this ship as nothing more than a suspicious sail on the horizon. Had you attacked on sight, you would have captured or sunk a single vessel, learning nothing. But now, you are on the verge of uncovering something far more significant. From your concealed position, you watch as the ship skillfully navigates the hidden entrance and disappears from view. You order your own ship to hold its position, dropping a quiet anchor in the deep water behind the headland. A small scouting party, composed of your most trusted Marines, is dispatched. They move with the stealth of wolves, climbing the rocks to get a vantage point over the cove. The waiting is the hardest part. The sounds of your own ship, the creak of the hull, the gentle lapping of water against the wood, the low murmur of the men seem impossibly loud. You find yourself scanning the sky, noting the position of the sun, acutely aware of how much daylight you have left. The scouts return as the afternoon light begins to soften, their faces grim with discovery. The leader reports in a low, urgent whisper. The ship in the cove was met by men who came from a hidden path in the cliffs. They unloaded not trade goods, but long, slender crates. the kind that holds swords or javelins, and heavy sealed amphorae that could contain anything from expensive wine to illegal Greek fire, a dangerous flammable weapon. The transaction was swift, practiced, and silent. There was no haggling of merchants, only the quiet efficiency of a planned operation. The ship is already preparing to leave, its business concluded. The pieces click into place with cold, hard clarity. This is not some lone pirate preying on the weak. You have stumbled upon a link in a chain, a piece of an organized network that is supplying weapons along the Roman coast. The decision to observe rather than attack has transformed a simple patrol into an intelligence mission of the highest importance. Capturing that one ship would have been a victory for a day. Uncovering their supply line could be a victory for the war you now realize is being fought in the shadows. This hidden cove, a detail discovered because you tested your crew, has become the key. This quiet watchfulness, this game of hide and seek upon the waves, has now become a defining part of your command. The patient observation of the suspect vessel has settled into a tense routine. For 2 days, you have used the very coves and rocky outcrops you charted on your initial patrol to keep your warship hidden, a predator shadowing its prey. Your marines are sharp, your rowers disciplined, their quiet rhythm a testament to the hard drills. A low conversation with your optio about the smuggler's likely next move is cut short by a change you feel more than see. The gentle rocking of the ship alters its pattern, becoming a sudden irritable twitch. You look up from your charts, a prickling sensation on the back of your neck. The light has gone strangely flat and yellow, and the distant call of gulls has ceased entirely.
This abrupt silence stretches across the water, a stark contrast to the usual sounds of the sea. Your crew feels it too. The rhythmic splash of the oars falters as men glance nervously at the sky. A breeze that was once warm and steady now comes in cool, unpredictable gusts, carrying a damp smell of deep, cold water. You run a hand over the wooden rail, its familiar texture now feeling slick with a sudden film of moisture. You motion to the helmsman, who is already squinting at the horizon, his hand tight on the tiller. There are no clouds to speak of, yet the sky seems to be lowering, pressing down. It is a stillness that feels heavier than any sound, a held breath before a scream. Then the world transforms. The horizon vanishes behind a wall of slate gray that rushes toward you with impossible speed. The first gust of wind hits the ship like a solid blow, heeling it over so sharply that you have to grab a thick rope to keep your footing. Immediately after, the rain begins, not as drops, but as a driving horizontal sheet of water, so cold it steals your breath and feels like 1,000 tiny needles against your exposed skin. The calm sea erupts into a chaos of churning white-capped waves. The roar of the wind fills your ears, a deafening howl that makes spoken orders useless. Every piece of wood on the ship groans in protest, a symphony of tortured timber. You fight your way across the pitching deck, your soaked legionary sandals slipping on the wet planks. Men are scrambling, their movements clumsy and desperate as they try to secure the rigging. Shouts are snatched away by the gale before they can be fully heard. You see a young Marine lose his grip and slide across the deck, only stopped by the quick thinking of a veteran rower who snares his tunic. The single sail, which had been reefed, tears from its mooring like a thunderclap and whips itself to shreds in seconds. The raw power of the assault is stunning, a force of nature that makes a mockery of Roman discipline and military might. Your ship, your first command, feels like a fragile leaf in a torrent.
Bracing yourself against the mast, you try to get a sense of your surroundings, but the spray and rain reduce visibility to mere feet. Waves, taller than a man, crash over the bow, sending rivers of frigid salt water washing down the length of the deck. Your men are soaked through, their faces pale and set in grim lines as they work. Your triarchus, the man responsible for the ship's physical well-being, stumbles towards you, his face a mask of terror. His voice is a panicked shriek, barely audible over the storm's fury. He points a trembling finger towards the coastline, now a blurred, menacing shadow in the gloom. We're taking on water, too fast, the pumps can't keep up. He continues screaming, gesturing wildly to a break in the cliffs. You recognize with a jolt of ice in your stomach. It is an inlet you carefully marked on your charts during your patrol of this hazardous coastline. An inlet noted for its treacherous ship-breaking rocks hidden just beneath the surface. "Shelter!" he cries, his eyes wide. "We can beach her there. It's our only chance." The thought of running your ship aground, of splintering its hull on those unseen daggers of stone, sends a wave of revulsion through you. Losing a vessel in your first command would be an unforgivable stain on your honor. The ship is an extension of Rome itself, a projection of its power, and to lose it to the rocks would be a failure of the highest order. The alternative, however, is just as terrifying. To turn the ship's nose into the storm, to face these monstrous waves head-on and ride it out in the open sea, is a gamble on the strength of your hull and the endurance of your men. You glance at the rowers, hunched over their oars, their knuckles white, their bodies already shaking with cold and exertion. You picture them being swept from their benches by one of these colossal waves, lost to the churning gray water in an instant. The legionary in you wants to stand and fight, to meet the enemy head-on. But here, the enemy is the sea itself, an opponent that cannot be reasoned with or intimidated.
This internal conflict rages within you. The pragmatic fear of the hidden rocks against the sheer, brutal test of the open water. The triarchus's plea for the shore represents a chance, however slim, of saving the men by sacrificing the ship. The open sea, by contrast, means betting everything, the ship and every soul aboard, on the hope that you are strong enough to endure. You look at the determined face of your helmsman, then at the exhausted but resolute crew. They are Roman soldiers and sailors. They were forged for hardship. A sudden clarity cuts through the roaring chaos. You will not die cowering in some rocky trap. You push the terrified triarchus aside and lurch toward the stern. Grabbing the helmsman by the shoulder, you put your mouth to his ear and shout the order, your voice raw against the wind. "Face the waves, steer us into the heart of it." The man doesn't question you. He simply gives a tight, grim nod, his own resolve hardening as he puts his entire body into turning the tiller. The ship protests, groaning as it fights the immense pressure of the water, slowly, painfully turning its bow to meet the oncoming assault. The deck shudders violently, but the turn holds. You have made your choice. What follows is an ordeal beyond anything you have ever known. Time loses all meaning, measured only in the space between one mountainous wave and the next. The ship climbs a wall of dark water that seems to touch the sky, hanging for a terrifying moment at its peak before plunging down into the trough with a stomach-lurching drop. The world becomes a cycle of green water, gray sky, and the constant bone-jarring shudder of the hull. You hear a loud crack from below, the sound of a structural timber giving way, and your heart seizes, but the ship holds together. Amidst the chaos, your men become a single functioning body. A team works the bilge pumps in a frantic, desperate rhythm. Others, tethered by ropes, move about the deck, securing anything that comes loose. A large amphora, a clay jar containing fresh water, breaks free of its lashings, rolls across the deck, and shatters against the railing, its precious contents lost instantly to the sea. The loss stings, a practical problem for later, but there is no time to mourn it now. All that matters is the next wave and the one after that. You move among them, offering a steadying hand, a word of encouragement shouted into the wind, sharing their misery and their resolve. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the rhythm of the waves begins to change. The violent peaks become long, rolling swells. The wind's deafening shriek lowers to a mournful howl, and the punishing rain softens into a steady, vertical downpour. Color begins to bleed back into the world as the unnatural darkness lifts, revealing a bruised-looking sky and a sea that is still angry but no longer trying to tear you apart. The immediate threat has passed. You stand on the deck, leaning heavily on the rail, every muscle in your body aching from the strain of keeping your balance. The ship is a wreck. The deck is littered with splintered wood and frayed rope, but it is afloat. More importantly, when you look around, every man is accounted for. They are slumped on their benches, huddled against the bulkheads, shivering with cold and exhaustion, their faces streaked with salt and grime. Yet they are alive. As you catch the eye of your optio, you see not just relief, but a flicker of something new, a deep, hard-won respect. The terror has passed, leaving behind a strange calm. They have faced the absolute fury of the sea under your command and survived.
This shared ordeal has changed the very substance of your crew. The divisions between veteran and recruit, rower and marine have been washed away. They are simply survivors, bound together by the experience. You look out at the churning gray water, no longer an abstract concept from a landsman's perspective, but a living entity whose power you now understand in your bones. In surviving its rage, you have been marked by it, connected to a force far more ancient and powerful than any army or empire. You have felt the true, untamable heart of the sea. The struggle against the storm has left your ship scarred and your crew hollow-eyed with exhaustion. Each man moves with a deliberate slowness, their muscles aching from the fight to keep the vessel afloat. The rhythmic splash of the oars is now sluggish, the sound heavy with fatigue as you guide your battered navis longa, your warship, toward the nearest provincial port. The water in the barrels is dangerously low, tainted with salt from a wave that crashed over the deck, and the taste of it is a constant, bitter reminder of your need. As the harbor comes into view, a calm, protected curve of water, a collective sigh of relief seems to pass through your men. They look to you, their faces smudged with salt and weariness, and you give a slow nod. You have brought them through the fury of the open sea. Now you must provide for them on land. The urgency of your thirst drives you ashore with your optio and a small guard of marines. The moment your sandals touch the stone quay, the change in environment is a shock. The ground is unnervingly still after days of the deck pitching beneath you. A dry warmth rises from the docks, making you squint against the brightness reflected off the whitewashed buildings. Workers hauling amphorae, large clay jars used for shipping wine and oil, move slowly, pausing often to wipe sweat from their brows in the slivers of shade cast by canvas awnings. The harbor smells of drying fish, hot dust, and the sharp tang of spilled wine fermenting on the stones. This place is alive, but its energy is sluggish, baked into a state of weary persistence that mirrors your own crew.
This reality makes your meeting with the local magistrate all the more frustrating. You find him in a surprisingly cool, stone-built office, its air stirred by a young slave waving a large fan of woven reeds. The magistrate is a man whose soft physique speaks of a life far removed from hardship, his tunic clean and his fingers uncalloused. After you state your purpose, the need to resupply a Roman military vessel on official patrol, he offers a thin, practiced smile. He speaks of a local shortage, a recent drought, and difficult supply lines. Consequently, the price he quotes for fresh water and basic grain is nothing short of extortion. He leans back in his chair, a picture of insincere regret, confident in his position. You can feel the eyes of your Marines on you, their expressions hardening. A familiar heat rises in your chest, an instinct forged in the unforgiving discipline of the legions. You are a centurion of Rome. This man is a provincial official, and you are on the Republic's business. Your authority gives you the right to requisition supplies, to take what is necessary for your ship and crew, with payment to be sorted out later by higher powers. The thought is powerfully simple. You imagine ordering your Marines forward, securing the port's warehouses, and taking the water and grain by force. It would be swift, effective, and would satisfy the burning anger you feel at this man's disrespect. It is the way of the land, where a sharp blade and a clear order solve most problems. However, just as you are about to speak the command that would set this course in motion, your optio takes a half step closer. His voice is a low murmur, meant only for you. "Sir," he begins, his gaze fixed on the magistrate. "Before we arrived, I spoke with a net mender on the docks. He complained that while the town goes thirsty, the magistrate's own warehouses are full. He claims the man sells water at night to certain private traders." The words hang in the space between you. Your optio is reminding you of the smugglers, the same network you tracked along the coast. He is showing you another path, one that avoids turning this port into a hostile place for every Roman ship that follows. The sailor's way is not always the direct one. It requires reading the currents of power as carefully as the currents of the sea.
You hold the magistrate's gaze, weighing the two options as if they were stones in your hands. One is heavy, direct, and brutal. The other is lighter, but requires a more precise touch. The memory of the difficult coastline you chose to patrol flashes in your mind. The jagged rocks, the hidden coves. You recall shadowing that unidentified sail, your patience rewarded with the knowledge of their secret meeting place. That information, gathered through vigilance rather than aggression, now feels more valuable than your sword. A slow shift occurs within you. You are not just a legionary anymore. You are a commander of the sea, and the sea has taught you that brute force can be broken by a hidden reef. You make your choice. Your posture relaxes, and you give the magistrate a smile that does not quite reach your eyes. "Shortages are a terrible thing, magistrate," you say, your voice calm and conversational. "They make men do desperate things." You let the statement linger before continuing. "My patrol has recently been occupied with charting the coastline to the north. It is a treacherous stretch of sea, full of hidden dangers. We've become quite familiar with its secrets, including a particularly well-hidden cove, perfect for discreet cargo transfers. One imagines the fees for using such a place would be quite high." You watch him closely. You have made no direct accusation, but the meaning is as clear as a signal flag. The change in the magistrate is immediate and profound. The smug confidence drains from his face, replaced by a flicker of panic. A single bead of sweat traces a path down his temple. He understands perfectly. You possess knowledge that could bring a formal Roman investigation down upon him, an inquiry that would certainly uncover his dealings and end his comfortable career. His whole demeanor shifts from that of a predator to that of cornered prey. He clears his throat, suddenly flustered, and begins to stammer about a possible accounting error, a misunderstanding with his quartermaster. Within moments, the price of water and provisions has become exceptionally fair. A gesture of goodwill, he insists, to a loyal servant of Rome. Back on the deck of your ship, you watch as your Marines oversee the loading of fresh water barrels and sacks of grain. The sounds of their work are energetic, a stark contrast to the weariness of their arrival. One of your younger Marines catches your eye and grins. "He changed his tune faster than the wind in a squall, sir."
You allow yourself a small smile in return. Your optio stands beside you, watching the activity with quiet satisfaction. He gives you a nod, a simple gesture of respect that feels more earned than any formal salute. By using knowledge as a lever, you have not only resupplied your ship, but have also sent a clear message along the coast. Your reputation will now precede you, a commander who is not to be trifled with, not because of his brute strength, but because of his sharp mind. The cool weight of a well-placed word, heavier than any legionary's sword, now settles deep in your memory. The information you leveraged from the nervous magistrate has proven invaluable. His fair price for supplies came with a whispered confirmation of the smuggler's primary haven, the very same hidden cove your men charted on that first challenging patrol. Now, with a favorable wind filling your single square sail, you are bearing down on that exact spot. On the deck, your marines are not idle. They move with a quiet purpose that calms your own racing thoughts, their leather armor groaning softly with each step. Two of them are checking the release mechanism of the Corvus, the massive spiked boarding bridge that is your legion's answer to naval warfare. A thudding clang echoes as they test its heavy iron beak, a sound that promises violence. This is a land soldier's weapon, designed to turn a sea battle into a fight on solid ground, and its presence is a comfort.
This comfort evaporates as you round the final rocky promontory that shields the cove from the open sea. Your plan was simple, a swift descent, trapping the smugglers in their lair before they could react. But the sea is rarely simple. Waiting for you are not one, but 3 ships. They are smaller and faster than your navis longa, with low profiles built for speed and stealth. They are positioned in a crescent formation, a wolf pack waiting to spring a trap. The entrance to the cove is their kill zone, and you are sailing directly into it. Your helmsman looks to you, his hands tight on the steering oar, his expression a mask of professional calm that does not hide the question in his eyes. The rhythmic splash of your own oars suddenly seems impossibly loud, a slow drumbeat announcing your doom. Your mind, trained for the clear lines of a land battle, struggles to process the fluid, 3-dimensional problem before you. A direct assault is suicide. They would flank you, peppering your vessel with arrows and javelins from all sides, while your marines could only face one ship at a time. The safe option is to turn and flee, to use your ship's sturdier build to weather their pursuit until you reach open water where you might outrun them. But turning your back would mean losing the element of surprise forever. This network would melt back into the coastline's countless inlets and coves, warned and wiser. Every instinct honed on the dusty fields of Gaul screams that a commander who willingly gives up the initiative is a commander already defeated. The risk of annihilation feels like a cold weight in your stomach, yet the thought of failure is a far sharper pain. A different memory surfaces, not of the sea, but of a sprawling land campaign. You recall a brilliant flanking maneuver your general executed by feigning a disorderly retreat, drawing a confident barbarian cavalry charge into a narrow valley where hidden infantry awaited. The sea is not a valley, but the principle is the same. Use an enemy's confidence against them. You make your choice. It is a gamble that rests entirely on the discipline of men who, until recently, had never faced a storm, let alone a naval ambush. You turn to your Optio, who has moved to your side, his weathered face grim. You speak in a low, clear voice, laying out the desperate plan. He nods once, his skepticism from your first meeting now replaced by a hard-won trust. He relays the orders, his voice sharp and urgent, and the ship begins to change.
The motion is subtle at first. The beat of the oars becomes slightly uneven, a few strokes splashing clumsily. The helmsman makes a wide, seemingly panicked turn away from the cove, presenting your broadside to the enemy for a moment longer than necessary. To the pirates, it must look like the sudden onset of fear, a lumbering Roman warship losing its nerve and attempting a clumsy escape. Your Marines on your command add to the illusion, making a show of moving equipment and shouting with feigned confusion. You watch the pirate vessels, your heart pounding against your ribs. For a long moment, they hold their formation, suspicious. Then, as if a single mind decided for all three, they take the bait. Their own oars dig into the water, and they surge forward, abandoning their perfect ambush position for the thrill of a chase. The sight of their pursuit, scattered and eager, is the signal you have been waiting for. The lead ship, a sleek vessel with a snarling wolf painted on its prow, pulls ahead of its companions, its crew already yelling insults across the water. They smell an easy victory. Now, hard to port, full stroke, you roar, your voice cutting through the sounds of the sea. The command is echoed by the Optio and the rowing master. The disciplined training pays off. In unison, the starboard oarsmen dig their blades deep, pulling with all their strength, while the port oarsmen reverse their stroke. Your navis longa groans, the timbers protesting as the ship pivots with a speed that belies its size. The feigned retreat is over. You are no longer the prey. The sudden, violent turn catches the lead pirate ship completely by surprise. They were prepared for a chase, not a head-on collision. For a few heartbeats, the two ships surge toward each other. The air is filled with the whine of arrows from your archers, clearing the enemy deck, and the answering shouts of panic from the wolf-prowed vessel. "Prepare the corvus," you yell. The heavy bridge, which had been resting upright against its mast, is now being maneuvered into position by a team of Marines. They work with practiced efficiency, their fear channeled into precise, necessary action. The pirate captain tries to swerve, but it's too late. His ship is built for speed, not for tight maneuvering at close quarters.
With a deafening crash that you feel through the soles of your sandals, the two hulls collide. Before the pirates can recover from the impact, you give the final command. Release! The ropes are cut, and with a tremendous thump, the iron beak of the corvus slams down onto the enemy deck, its huge spike biting deep into the planking. The bridge is locked in place. For a moment, there is a stunned silence, broken only by the splintering of wood. Then, your centurion of Marines, a man whose face is a roadmap of old scars, raises his gladius, a short stabbing sword, and bellows the charge. The Marines surge across the bridge, their rectangular shields locked together, forming a solid wall of wood and steel.
From your position on the command deck, you watch the battle unfold. It is not a chaotic brawl, it is a methodical slaughter. The pirates are fierce individual fighters, but they are no match for the disciplined unit of legionaries advancing across their deck. The Romans move as one body, their short swords stabbing from behind the safety of their shield wall, a technique perfected over centuries of warfare. While the boarding action rages, you are not idle. The other two pirate ships are circling, hesitant now that they see their leader is trapped. You order your remaining archers to keep them at a distance, and you have the helmsman use the captured ship as a pivot point, turning your vessel to keep your bow pointed toward the next threat. The fight on the captured ship is over in minutes. The Marines are relentless, their victory swift and brutal. Seeing their flagship taken and its crew cut down, the second pirate vessel loses its nerve. It hesitates, then turns, its crew rowing frantically to escape. The third ship, seeing itself suddenly alone, follows its companion, abandoning the fight. You let them go. Your prize is secure, and your ship, while scraped and bruised from the collision, is intact. Your men have proven that the lessons of the land, discipline, formation, and tactical cunning are just as deadly on the water.
Your Marines secure the captured vessel and its few surviving prisoners. The deck of your own ship is a scene of controlled activity. The ship's carpenter is already assessing the damage to the hull, while a medic tends to a handful of minor wounds among the Marines. Your men are not cheering. They are soldiers who have just done their job. They move with the quiet confidence of those who have faced a deadly threat and overcome it through skill and discipline. The Optio approaches you, a rare smile touching the corners of his mouth. "A landman's trick," he says, his voice full of respect. "They never saw it coming." You look from the captured pirate ship, now tied alongside your own, to the open sea where the other two have vanished. This was more than just one victory. It was a proof of concept. You took a desperate situation and, by refusing the easy path of retreat, turned it into a decisive win. You applied the logic of the Legion to the chaos of the sea, and it held true. The pirates relied on fear and speed, but you relied on something stronger, the unshakable discipline of Roman soldiers and the unbreakable bonds of a crew forged in a storm. The strategy was yours, but the victory belongs to every man on this ship. As the Marines begin the grim work of clearing the captured deck, you stand at the rail, feeling the gentle swell of the sea beneath you. The harsh smell of sweat and spilled blood is sharp in your nostrils, a scent of conflict you know all too well. Yet mixed with it is the clean, constant scent of the salt water, the scent of your new domain. You thought you were a soldier sent to the sea, a centurion given a captain's title. But in the heat of the ambush, in the moment of that critical decision, something shifted. You commanded the ship not as a piece of equipment, but as a part of yourself. Its oars your limbs, its marines your fist.
The sun is lower in the sky now, casting long shadows across the water. You give the orders to set a course back toward the provincial port, this time with a captured prize in tow. The men move to their tasks, the rhythm of the oars picking up once more, steady and strong. The exhaustion of the battle begins to settle into your muscles, a deep ache that is both painful and satisfying.
You have taken a piece of a dangerous smuggling network off the board, proven a new tactic, and further solidified the trust of your crew. You feel the weight of this accomplishment in the very marrow of your bones, a foundation upon which future victories will be built. The frantic energy of the battle drains away, leaving behind a stillness broken only by the slosh of water against the hulls of two ships, yours and the one you have just taken. Ropes groan as your Marines lash the captured vessel securely to your own, its mast splintered and its sail torn like a beggar's rags. A deep exhaustion settles into your bones, a familiar feeling after a fight on land, yet made strange by the gentle rocking of the deck beneath your feet. Your men move with practiced efficiency, their earlier battle cries now replaced by low commands and the rhythmic work of securing their prize. The victory, won by adapting the feigned retreat you knew so well from the Legion, feels both strange and deeply satisfying. It proved that Roman discipline, forged in the storm you endured together, is as potent on water as it is on land. This victory, however, has brought with it a new complication. Below your deck, in the cramped space normally used for spare rigging and amphorae of water, are the fruits of your success: a dozen captured pirates. Your Marines stand guard, their faces grimly satisfied. The harsh mix of sounds from below, the clink of chains, the low moans of the wounded, and the defiant muttering in a foreign tongue reaches you even here. You feel the collective gaze of your crew upon you. They have fought bravely, and now they expect justice. Roman law is simple and brutal on this matter. Pirates are not soldiers. They are vermin, an enemy to all who travel the sea. The penalty is death, swift and public, a warning to any others who would prey on Roman shipping.
Descending the ladder into the dim hold, the scent of bilge water, sweat, and fear grows stronger, making you pull the back of your hand across your nose. Lantern light throws long, dancing shadows against the curved ribs of the ship, making the space feel like the belly of some great beast. The prisoners are huddled together, bound and sullen. Most are merely thugs, their faces blank with fear or dull with resignation. But one man holds himself differently. He is older, with a network of scars on his face that tells a story of countless fights. His eyes, even in the poor light, are sharp and intelligent. He meets your gaze not with fear, but with a cold calculation. This is their leader. This is the man who holds the answers you need, the key to the network you've been tracking since you first spotted that smuggler's cove. Your Optio appears at your side, his voice a low rumble. The men are ready to finish this, sir. They want to see them hang from the yardarm. It would be good for morale. He is right. A public execution would satisfy their need for vengeance and reinforce the discipline of your command. It is the simple, expected, lawful path. A part of you, the legionary centurion, agrees completely. Justice should be as sharp and unyielding as a gladius blade. Yet the commander in you, the man who chose a difficult patrol and shadowed a suspicious ship instead of attacking it, sees a greater opportunity. Killing this man silences him. The information he holds could unravel the entire smuggling operation that troubles this coast.
the same operation that corrupt magistrate in the port was so clearly involved with. The conflict turns over in your mind, a weight as heavy as your armor. On one hand, there is the law, tradition, and the morale of your crew. An execution is a clear and powerful statement. It is what Rome expects of you. On the other hand, there is the mission. Your duty is not just to punish piracy, but to end it. To do that, you need to understand it. You need to know who supplies them, who buys their goods, and who protects them. This man, the leader with the intelligent eyes, is a living map to that entire network. Sparing him is a risk. His presence on the ship could cause unrest, and any information he gives might be a lie designed to lead you into a trap.
You watch the pirate leader for a long moment. You see the flicker of hope in his eyes when he realizes you are not giving the immediate order for his death. It is a tiny crack in his hardened exterior, and it is the opening you need. The desire for a clean, lawful end to this bloody business fights with the cold, practical need for intelligence that could save Roman lives and secure this entire coastline. Your duty to the Republic is not just to follow the letter of the law, but to achieve its ultimate purpose, security and order. You make your decision. Turning to your optio, you speak in a voice loud enough for the guards and the prisoners to hear. Take this one to my cabin. The rest will be held under guard until we reach the next port. A murmur runs through the Marines, a sound of confusion and mild disapproval, but they are disciplined soldiers. They obey. In the relative quiet of your small cabin, the pirate leader stands before you, his hands still bound. You dismiss the guards, leaving just the two of you alone with a single swaying lantern. You offer him a cup of water, a simple gesture that seems to surprise him. He drinks it greedily, his eyes never leaving yours. You do not ask him for names or locations. Instead, you begin by telling him what you already know. You speak of the hidden cove you charted, of the drop-off you witnessed, and of the corrupt magistrate in the port who was clearly in business with smugglers. You lay out the pieces of the puzzle you have already assembled, showing him that his secrets are already beginning to unravel. His confidence begins to waver, replaced by a grudging respect. He sees you are not just a brute with a sword.
You are a dead man, you state calmly, letting the words settle between you. By Roman law, I should have you crucified at the next port. Your men will be sold as slaves or sent to the mines. That is the end of your story. You let him absorb the finality of it. The man who had faced you with such defiance in the hold now seems smaller, his shoulders slumping slightly. You see the muscles in his jaw working as he considers his fate. Only then do you offer him the alternative. However, your life has a price. It is worth one piece of information to me. Who pays you? Who funds your ships and gives you your targets? Give me the name of your benefactor, and you will live. I will see you are given a quiet exile in a remote province. You will never see the sea again,
but you will see the sunrise tomorrow. The silence stretches, filled only by the creak of the ship's timbers. The pirate weighs his life against his loyalty. You can see the struggle on his face. He is a man accustomed to violence and betrayal, likely bound by oaths he knows are worthless in the face of death. He studies you, searching for any sign of deception. Perhaps he sees the honesty in your weariness, the straightforward nature of a soldier, not a politician. Finally, he gives a short, bitter laugh. My benefactor? He spits the word like something foul. He is no friend of Rome. He pays in Carthaginian silver. The name hangs in the small cabin, heavier than any anchor. Carthage, Rome's great rival, the enemy you faced in a long and brutal war a generation ago. A tense peace holds now, but there is no trust, only suspicion. The idea that Carthaginian agents are secretly funding pirates to disrupt Roman trade routes changes everything. This is no longer a simple police action against criminals. It is a shadow war, an act of aggression hidden behind the guise of common piracy. The pieces suddenly click into place. The choice of targets, the quality of their ships, the network that seemed too organized for a simple band of thieves.
You lean back, the wooden chair groaning under your weight. The information is a fire in your gut. It is dangerous, explosive. The pirate leader, having given up his secret, seems to deflate, the last of his fight gone. He looks like what he now is, a broken man hoping only to survive. You call for the guards and have him taken back to the hold, but kept separate from the others. He has bought his life, but he will remain your prisoner. You are left alone with the knowledge he has given you, a burden far heavier than the command of a single ship. This revelation rearranges the entire world as you know it. The unidentified sail you chose to shadow was not just a smuggler. It was a probe from a foreign power. The pirates you lured into a trap were not just greedy men. They were pawns in a much larger game. A continuation of the great Punic Wars, fought not on the battlefield, but in the coastal shadows and shipping lanes. Every choice you have made up to this point, from taking the difficult patrol route to sparing this man's life, has led you to this moment, to this terrible and vital secret. The salt on your lips tastes of something new now, not just the sea, but the bitter flavor of impending conflict. Your pragmatic choice has transformed your duty, binding you to a hidden struggle far greater than you could have imagined. The name hangs in the quiet of your small cabin, Carthage. It is a word heavy with the memory of spilled blood and burned cities, a name that should belong to history, not to a pirate's confession. The gentle rock and creak of the ship, usually a comfort, now feels like the slow, relentless ticking of a clock. You run a hand over the rough sawn wood of your desk. The splinters a minor, distant sensation compared to the turmoil in your mind. The information you now hold is a burning coal cupped in your hands. Holding on sears you, but dropping it could set the world ablaze. Roman law is clear on piracy, but it is maddeningly complex on matters of state.
especially when you are only a centurio with a single ship, far from the marble halls where such fates are decided.
This burden is too great to bear alone. You send for your two most trusted officers. The Optio, his face a map of countless sea voyages, enters first, his eyes steady as always. He stands with a sailor's balance, barely seeming to notice the constant motion of the deck. Following him is the Triarchus, the ship's manager, whose gaze immediately sweeps the cabin, assessing the state of the timbers and the flickering oil lamp as if calculating the cost of repairs. You have them secure the door. The space feels smaller now, the low ceiling pressing down. You tell them everything: the pirate's desperate words, the name of the benefactor, the chilling implication that this is not mere smuggling, but a shadow war funded by Rome's oldest enemy. The silence that follows is profound, broken only by the groan of the hull. Your Triarchus is the first to speak, his voice as practical as ever. Carthage or not, our hull is still battered from the storm. We are low on arrows, and our spare rigging is nearly gone. If we are to face a true naval force, we need a full resupply at a military port. His concerns are for the ship, the physical reality of your command. It is a grounding thought, a reminder of the immediate world of wood and rope, but it does not solve the larger problem. Your Optio, however, looks past the ship. He looks at you, his expression unreadable. After a long moment, he speaks, his voice low. The law is the law, Commander. We draft a report, we send it by the fastest military courier. We follow the chain of command. That is the Roman way. It protects us, it protects you. He is right, of course. To follow procedure is to be safe from accusation. An official report, sealed and sent to the provincial governor, who would then forward it to the Senate, is the proper course. Yet, a cold feeling settles in your gut. You think of the senators in Rome, men grown fat on peace, squabbling over land deals and political favors. How long would such a report sit on a desk? How many officials would dismiss it as the fantasy of a junior commander seeking promotion? By the time they recognized the threat, grain fleets could be at the bottom of the sea, and the Republic could be starved into weakness. The risk of inaction feels greater than the risk of stepping beyond your authority. After you dismiss them, the weight of the decision settles fully upon your shoulders. You are a soldier of Rome, sworn to protect it. But what is Rome? Is it the bickering senators, the endless scrolls of laws and procedures? Or is it the people, the grain that feeds them, the peace that a strong fleet secures? The Optio's advice is wise, the path of a long career. The Triarchus's concerns are vital, the needs of the tool in your hand. But neither addresses the fire this information has lit within you. You pace the short length of your cabin, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. Waiting for the Senate feels like a betrayal of your duty. Acting alone, however, is a clear path to a charge of treason, a dishonorable death, and the ruin of your family name. Your mind drifts back to your service in the legions, to a tribune you served under during a campaign in Gaul. He was a man of action, decisive and ruthless, one who understood that victory often belongs to the swift, not the cautious. He is in Brundisium now, you recall, attached to the main fleet. He is a man who would listen, a man who would understand the urgency. An idea begins to form, a dangerous compromise between procedure and audacity. It is a path that could save Rome or destroy you completely. The thought of it makes your heart beat faster, a frantic rhythm against the steady pulse of the sea. There is no perfect choice here, only the one you can live with. Remembering your duty above all else, your duty to the idea of Rome, not just its bureaucracy. You make your choice. You sit at your desk and pull out 2 wax tablets. On the first, you begin to carefully inscribe a formal report with your stylus. You detail the engagement with the pirates, the capture of their vessel, and the intelligence gained from the interrogation. You are careful to be precise, factual, and respectful of the chain of command. This report will be for the official courier, the one that will satisfy the Optio's caution and fulfill your legal obligation. It is your shield, a document proving you did not hide what you learned. Once it is finished and sealed, you take up the second tablet. This message is different. It is shorter, more direct. You write not as a ship captain to the high command, but as one soldier to another. You address the tribune by name, reminding him of your time serving together. You lay out the threat in stark terms, without the formal language of an official dispatch. You emphasize the speed of the enemy and the complacency you fear in Rome. This message is not a report. It is a warning. This is your sword. You think back to the port magistrate and the merchant you dealt with fairly. That small act of shrewd diplomacy now provides you with a path. You will entrust this second secret message to him, knowing his trading vessels move faster and with less scrutiny than any military ship. You summon a trusted marine and give him the first tablet, with instructions to deliver it to the military courier at the nearest port. Then, under the cover of darkness, you go ashore yourself in a small skiff. You find the merchant from whom you secured supplies, the man whose respect you earned not with force but with leverage. You give him the second tablet and a heavy purse of silver, explaining its importance without revealing its full contents. He looks from the tablet to you, his eyes showing he understands the weight of the secret he now carries. He agrees, promising it will reach the tribune in Brundisium with the speed of the winds. As you row back to your ship, the vessel looks like a dark ghost against the star-dusted water. The 2 messages are gone, sent on their separate paths, carrying your fate with them. A profound sense of uncertainty washes over you. You have split your loyalty, betting your life and career that one man's action will achieve what an entire system could not. You have placed your trust in the informal bonds of soldiers and merchants over the formal structures of the Republic. Now, all you can do is wait and continue your patrol, sailing under a cloud of secrecy. The knowledge of what you have done will be your constant companion on the lonely watches of the night.
The days since you sent your messages have stretched thin, each one a mirror of the last. A slow patrol rhythm has settled over the ship, a deceptive calm that does little to soothe the knot of uncertainty in your gut. You sent 2 birds into the sky, one official,
one secret, and now you can only scan the horizon and wait. The waiting is a unique kind of torment, different from the sharp fear of battle or the exhaustion of a storm. It is a slow grind, a wearing down of the spirit that leaves you pacing the quarterdeck, tracing the seams of the planks with your eyes. Your thoughts drift constantly to that tribune, the man you served with on solid ground. You wonder if your message even reached him, or if it lies at the bottom of a courier's pouch, lost to bandits or misfortune. This morning, the sea is a sheet of hammered silver, the sky a pale, cloudless blue. The gentle rocking of the ship is so familiar it feels like a part of your own breathing. Your optio stands near the stern, watching the wake. He has been quieter than usual, his silence a sign that he understands the weight of your decision. He knows you have bypassed the formal chain of command, a sin in the legions, but a necessity, you felt, in these murky waters. A sudden shout from the lookout in the basket atop the mast shatters the quiet. "Smoke! To the west! Heavy smoke!" Every head snaps up. You grab the railing, your eyes straining against the glare off the water, and you see it. A smudge of darkness against the pristine sky, too thick and black to be a cooking fire. It speaks of disaster. "Helmsman, turn us toward the smoke," you command, your voice cutting through the sudden murmur of the crew. "Marines, to your stations. Rowers, prepare for battle speed." There is no hesitation. The men move with a practiced efficiency that brings a surge of pride to your chest. The ship comes alive beneath your feet as it pivots, the great steering oars digging into the water. The rhythmic beat of the hortator, the officer who sets the rowing pace, begins to pound from below decks, a steady, powerful heartbeat driving you toward the unknown. As you draw closer, the scene resolves from a distant smudge into a clear and horrifying picture. A small convoy of broad-beamed Roman grain ships, heavy and slow in the water, is being systematically attacked. They are beset by a squadron of 5 warships, long, sleek, and fast, their sails marked with the unmistakable emblem of Carthage.
This is no longer a shadow war, fought with pirates and smugglers. The veil has been torn away. This is open hostility, an act of war on the open sea. Your single navis longa, your warship, is heavily outmatched. Your mind, trained in the brutal mathematics of legionary combat, does the calculation instantly. 5 to 1. The odds are impossible. Your optio appears at your elbow, his face grim, his knuckles white where he grips the hilt of his sword. "Centurion," he says, his voice low and tight, "they will swamp us before we can even deploy the corvus." He is right. The corvus, the hinged boarding bridge that one battles on land like shipdecks, is useless against a faster, more numerous enemy who will not allow you to close. They can ram you from all sides, turning your command into a wreck of splintered timbers. The logical, sensible part of your mind screams for you to turn back. To escape and report this attack is the prudent course of action. But then you see one of the grain ships, its mast cracked and trailing in the water, its crew trying to fight off boarders. They are Romans. They are feeding the Republic. A cold fury settles over you, pushing aside the fear. Retreat is not an option. Not while they are still fighting. Your eyes scan the sea, the sky, searching for any advantage, any hope.
And then you see it. To the north, a low, dense bank of fog is rolling across the water, a silent, gray wall advancing toward the battle. An idea born of sheer desperation and an unwavering faith in the men around you begins to take shape in your mind. It is a wild, almost insane gamble that relies not on strength, but on deception. You turn to your helmsman, a quiet man from Ostia, whose hands seem to speak the language of the rudder. You meet his gaze, and in his weathered face, you see the same calm competence he showed you when navigating the rocky coast. Can you hold a straight course in that? You ask, pointing a finger toward the approaching fog. He squints, then gives a single, sharp nod. That is all the confirmation you need. The plan solidifies, a reckless strategy taking form from the mists. You will not fight them as one ship. You will fight them as a ghost, as an illusion of a fleet they cannot see. The risk is immense. One mistake, one moment of panic from the rowers or a miscalculation by the helmsman, and you will be lost, either to the enemy or to the disorienting blindness of the fog. The thought of your crew, the men who survived the storm with you, gives you strength. They have been tested by the sea's fury and have not broken. They follow your orders with a discipline that is the envy of other ships. You find yourself torn for only a moment between the instinct for self-preservation and the duty of a commander. The legionary in you, the man who holds the line, wins out. You turn to the optio, your voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside. We are not running. We will hit their rear guard and use that fog as our shield. They will not know how many of us there are. For a heartbeat, he stares at you as if you have lost your mind. Then, a slow, dangerous grin spreads across his face. A legionary's ambush on the water. I should have expected it. The men will love it. Sound the charge, you order. The horn blasts a single, piercing note across the water. The hortator's mallet quickens its beat, and the ship surges forward, a predator closing on its prey. The rowers pull with a strength you can feel vibrating up through the deck, their grunts of effort a chorus of defiance. You aim for the rearmost Carthaginian vessel, a ship distracted by its attack on a struggling merchantman. They see you coming too late. Your bronze-sheathed wham strikes their stern quarter with a sound like the world splitting open, a horrifying crunch of wood and bone. Timbers a foot thick shatter like kindling. You feel the impact shudder through your entire body, and you brace your legs to keep from being thrown to the deck. For a few precious moments, chaos reigns on the enemy vessel. Your Marines, shielded behind the gunwales, unleash a disciplined volley of javelins, their iron points finding targets among the shocked Carthaginian crew. You do not attempt to board. That is not the plan. "Backwater! Starboard oars! Now!" you roar. The order is relayed, and your disciplined rowers respond instantly. The ship groans as it pulls away from the crippled enemy, leaving them floundering and confused. As you pull back, you see the other enemy ships turning toward you, their movements angry and surprised. They are coming for you now, but you are already moving toward your sanctuary. The first wisps of fog curl around the hull, cool and damp on your skin. The world dissolves into a uniform, silent gray. Visibility drops to a few ship lengths. The sounds of battle become muffled and distorted, and a strange quiet descends, broken only by the rhythmic splash of your own oars and the creak of the hull. Your breathing grows shallow in the sudden stillness. It feels as if you have sailed off the edge of the world. "Steady," you call out, your voice sounding loud in the close, damp surroundings. "Helmsman, a slow turn to port. Hornblower, one blast every minute, so our friends in the convoy know where we are." You are now completely reliant on the skill of your men. The helmsman navigates by memory and instinct, feeling the subtle shifts in the current. The rowers maintain their rhythm in the blind, trusting the beat of the mallet. This is the heart of your gamble. You are a phantom in the mist, and now you must haunt them. After a few minutes that feel like an eternity, you order another turn. "Bring us out. Let's give them something else to look at." You burst from the fog bank at a completely different angle, your sail a sudden, shocking appearance in the gloom. You are not close enough to ram, but you are visible. A great cheer goes up from one of the Roman merchant ships. The Carthaginian squadron, which had begun to reform, falters in confusion. From their perspective, a Roman warship struck them from the south, vanished, and has now reappeared from the east. To their ears, already hearing your horn, it must seem as though a second ship has joined the fight.
You do not linger. Before they can organize a pursuit, you slip back into the enveloping grayness of the fog. You repeat the maneuver twice more, a deadly game of hide and seek. You appear, show your colors, let loose a volley of arrows to harass them, and then disappear again. Each appearance is from a new direction, sowing more chaos and uncertainty. The shouts from the enemy ships grow more frantic, their horn signals more confused. Their commander, unable to see his own vessels clearly, let alone the full extent of the force attacking him, is becoming paralyzed by doubt. He fears a larger Roman fleet is using the fog to encircle him, picking his ships off one by one. His aggression has turned to caution, and his caution is turning to fear. Finally, you hear a series of long, deep blasts from the Carthaginian flagship's horn. It is the signal to withdraw and regroup. Through a thinning patch of fog, you see them. The enemy squadron is pulling away from the battered grain convoy, turning eastward, their movements hesitant as they search the mists for the ghost fleet that has tormented them. They leave behind one heavily damaged ship that is struggling to keep pace. You watch them go, the tension in your shoulders slowly releasing. You do not pursue. Your bluff has worked, but it is a fragile one. The moment the fog clears completely, they will see you are alone, and their fear will turn to rage. As the last enemy sail vanishes into the gray, a ragged but triumphant cheer erupts from your crew. Men slap each other on the back, their faces streaked with sweat and sea spray, their eyes alight with the thrill of an impossible victory. You allow yourself a small, grim smile. You look to your Optio, who simply shakes his head in disbelief and claps you on the arm. Your crew did not just survive. They performed a masterpiece of disciplined seamanship. They trusted you completely, rowing blind into the unknown, responding to every command without question. In the heart of that disorienting fog, something new was forged. You have seen your men become more than soldiers on a ship. They have become a single intelligent weapon, an extension of the sea's own deceptive power.
The message you sent to the tribune, the unofficial and risky plea for attention, has clearly found its mark. Following your defense of the grain convoy, where your small ship held off a superior force by using the fog as both shield and weapon, a summons arrived. Now, after days of careful sailing, the main fleet anchorage at Brundisium opens before you. The sight causes you to pause, your hand resting on the weathered railing of your ship. Countless masts rise toward the sky, a dense, leafless forest of wood and rope. Compared to the gleaming hulls and crisp white sails of the warships here, your own navis longa looks like a stray dog, its wood bleached by salt and scarred from the storm and the recent battle. Your crew works with a quiet, hard-won confidence, but here they are a single drop in an ocean of naval power. Because of this vast display of Roman might, the arrival of the admiral's personal messenger boat feels even more significant. It cuts through the water with practiced efficiency, its crew barely glancing at your battered vessel as they pull alongside. A young officer, his armor polished to a mirror shine that makes you conscious of the dents in your own, hands you a sealed scroll. There is no ceremony, only the curt instruction to present yourself on the flagship immediately. As the boat departs, your Optio and Triarchus watch you, their faces carefully neutral, but you can see the shared tension in their posture. This summons could mean a commendation for saving the grain fleet or a court-martial for bypassing the chain of command. The stiff parchment feels heavy and cold in your hand. Stepping from your familiar deck onto the gangplank of the flagship is like entering another world. The wood beneath your worn legionary sandals is different. It is scrubbed smooth and holystoned to a pale white, not worn into dark grooves by hardship and the sea. The sounds are muted here, replaced by the quiet hum of disciplined order, the soft snap of a flag in the breeze, the low murmur of orders given and followed without question. Marines in perfect formation stand guard, their expressions unreadable. This change in atmosphere makes your breathing feel shallow, a stark contrast to the freewheeling vigilance of your own command. You are no longer the master of your ship, but a junior officer being called to account. The stiff parchment feels heavy and cold in your hand. Stepping from your familiar deck onto the gangplank of the flagship is like entering another world. The wood beneath your worn legionary sandals is different. It is scrubbed smooth and holystoned to a pale white, not worn into dark grooves by hardship and the sea. The sounds are muted here, replaced by the quiet hum of disciplined order, the soft snap of a flag in the breeze, the low murmur of orders given and followed without question. Marines in perfect formation stand guard, their expressions unreadable. This change in atmosphere makes your breathing feel shallow, a stark contrast to the freewheeling vigilance of your own command. You are no longer the master of your ship, but a junior officer being called to account.
You are led to a large cabin at the stern, the air inside smelling of cedar wood and waxed parchment, a scent so different from the pine tar and brine you have grown accustomed to. Before a large table covered in maps sits the admiral, a man who looks as if he were carved from old oak, weathered and unyielding. The lines on his face speak of countless campaigns, and you notice old scars on his hands that map forgotten battles fought long before you ever joined the legions. He does not rise. He simply watches you approach,
his eyes sharp and assessing, taking in every detail of your appearance. The silence in the cabin is absolute, broken only by the gentle creaking of the ship's timbers, a sound that suddenly feels menacing. As you come to a halt and offer a salute, he gestures for you to stand at ease. He does not speak for a long moment, letting the quiet press in on you. Then he pushes 2 scrolls across the polished surface of the table. One is your official report detailing the engagement with the Carthaginian ships. The other is a copy of the secret message you sent to your old tribune. His voice, when he finally speaks, is low and rough, like stones grinding together. You have been busy, Centurion. You fight battles you should not be able to win, and you write letters you should not be sending. Explain both. It is not a question, it is a command. A part of you, the old legionary instinct for survival, suggests caution. You could frame your actions in the best possible light, emphasizing your victory and downplaying the desperate gamble you took. You could omit the full truth of the smuggler's network, pretending you stumbled upon it by chance. Yet the sea has taught you a different lesson. It is an element of brutal honesty, one that punishes vanity and rewards clear-eyed assessments. The storm did not care for your pride, and the pirates would have killed you if you had misjudged them. You find yourself torn between the political answer and the commander's answer. After a breath, you realize there is only one path. You decide to give him the unvarnished truth, the kind the waves themselves would offer if they could speak.
You speak plainly. You speak plainly, your voice steady. You recount everything, starting with the smuggler's cove you charted on your first patrol. You detail the decision to shadow the suspicious ship rather than attack, the information you gained, and the capture of the pirate vessel. You admit your ship's battered state after the storm, a crucial factor that shaped your later tactics. When you describe the battle for the grain convoy, you do not paint yourself as a hero. Instead, you present it as a tactical problem, explaining how you used the fog and your crew's hard-won discipline to create the illusion of a larger force, admitting it was a desperate move that could have easily failed. You speak of the enemy not as fools, but as competent sailors who were simply outmaneuvered. The admiral listens without interruption, his gaze never leaving your face. He leans back when you finish, his fingers drumming a slow, thoughtful rhythm on the tabletop. The silence stretches again, far more unnerving this time. You have laid your entire command bare before him, your successes, your gambles, your insubordination. He could strip you of your rank for your unauthorized communication alone. Instead, he gives a short, sharp nod. You see the sea not as a legionary sees a field, but as a sailor sees a shifting battlefield. You respect the enemy, you understand your own limits, and you do not lie to your superiors. Rome has enough politicians. It needs commanders. He rises and walks to the map on the table, placing a finger on a small island chain. Your information confirms our fears. Carthaginian agents are attempting to destabilize our grain supply. Your tribune has vouched for you, and your actions have proven his faith was not misplaced. He turns back to you, his expression stern but no longer threatening.
You are relieved of command of your navis longa. Your heart sinks for a moment before he continues. You are hereby given command of a squadron of 3 ships. Your mission is to hunt down the agent funding these pirates and eliminate their base of operations. Do not fail. You carry the weight of his words with you as you walk back toward the waiting boat, the sounds of the bustling harbor seeming distant and strangely muted.
The sea feels different now. It is no longer a single rolling plain beneath your keel, but a broad field of maneuver you command from the center. To your port side, the navis longa named Aquila keeps pace, her oar banks rising and falling in a rhythm that mirrors your own. To starboard, the accipiter holds her station, a dark shape against the morning haze. The combined sound of nearly 500 oars dipping into the water creates a low, powerful hum that vibrates through your sandals and up into your chest. This is no longer the lonely duty of a single captain. It is the concerted will of a Roman squadron, and that will is yours to direct. A horn blast from your ship, a short, sharp note from the cornisan, a military hornblower, is answered by identical calls from the other vessels, a crisp acknowledgement of your order to change formation. The simple exchange fills you with a sense of authority that is both heavy and deeply satisfying. Your optio stands near the stern, his gaze fixed on the distant smudge of land that is your target. The captains are holding their positions well, he remarks, his tone holding the grudging respect he has earned for you. They heard of your work with the grain convoy. It helps. Because of this, they trust your signals without question, a trust you know is fragile. The honesty you gave the admiral earned you these ships, but only victory will allow you to keep the respect of the men who command them. Your eyes meet the optios. Trust helps, you reply. A good plan helps more. He gives a short nod, understanding that you have been turning the problem over in his mind for days, searching for a way to crack this fortified island without shattering your small force against its walls.
The intelligence you received is clear. The Carthaginian agent operates from a fortress on the island's only natural harbor. A direct assault on the harbor mouth would be suicide. Their ships and shore-based catapults would tear you apart before you could even deploy the corvus. You unroll a rough chart on the navigator's table, the vellum weighted down with smooth stones. Your finger traces the island's coastline, a jagged line of cliffs and unforgiving rock. As you study it, the memory of navigating the smuggler's coastline, a choice made so long ago, returns. You learned then that what looks impassable on a chart is not always so to determined men. An idea begins to form, a plan born from the lessons of the land. Divide, distract, and strike where least expected. It feels audacious, almost reckless, but the alternative is to bleed your men against stone walls. That evening, you summon the other 2 captains to your ship. They are brought across in a small boat, their faces hard and weathered in the lantern light of your cabin. One is a broad, bull-necked man who commands the Aquila. The other, captain of the accipiter, is leaner, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. You lay the chart before them. A frontal assault is what they expect, you begin, your voice low and steady. We will not give it to them. You point to the far side of the island. You say to the broad-shouldered captain, will take the Aquila and create a diversion. Make noise, launch a few fire pots, make them think a landing is imminent there. Then you turn to the other captain. You will take the Accipitter and blockade the harbor entrance. Nothing gets in or out. Let them see you. Let them worry. The lean captain's eyes narrow. And your ship, where will you be, Commander? There is a challenge in his voice, a test of your resolve. This is the critical moment. You meet his gaze without flinching, and place your finger on a tall, sheer cliff face marked on the chart as inaccessible. My Marines and I will be climbing this. A heavy silence falls over the cabin, broken only by the creak of the ship's timbers. The bull-necked captain lets out a low whistle. The gods favor the bold, he says, or they bury them. The lean captain studies your face for a long moment, then gives a sharp, decisive nod. They see the same calculated risk you do, a plan that relies on perfect timing and absolute trust.
As night claims the sea, the plan is set in motion. You watch the Aquila break formation, her silhouette shrinking as she moves toward the far side of the island. A profound sense of separation washes over you. A part of your strength is now beyond your direct sight, in the hands of another commander. All you have is trust. Your own vessel, the Fortis, moves like a ghost toward the looming cliffs, the oarsman pulling with muffled oars, each oar wrapped in cloth to deaden the sound. The only sounds are the gentle wash of water against the hull and the quiet commands of the rowing master. You feel the tension in your shoulders, a tight knot of anticipation for the coming violence. Your Marines gather on the foredeck, their faces grimly determined under their helmets. They check the straps of their gear and the grip of their cullagay, the heavy-soled sandals studded with iron nails designed to grip a ship's deck or a rocky path with equal ferocity. You move among them, offering a quiet word here, a firm clasp of the shoulder there. These are the men who rode out the great storm with you, who fought the pirates, who have become an extension of your will. Their silent confidence is a comfort, a sign that the bond forged in shared hardship remains unbroken. Your optio brings you a water skin. The water is stale, but you drink it down, the coolness a brief relief in your dry throat. He simply says, "They are ready." From the distance, a faint orange glow appears, followed by a muffled roar. The diversion has begun. It is time. Your helmsman expertly brings the Fortis into the shadow of the cliff face, so close you can feel the damp chill coming off the stone. Grappling hooks are thrown, their small scraping sounds unnervingly loud in the quiet night. Ropes are tested, and the first Marine begins his ascent, a dark shape against the darker rock. You take your place in line, the coarse rope rough in your hands, the weight of your sword and armor a familiar burden. Your gaze travels up the sheer cliff, a path no sane defender would think to guard. The climb is a grueling test of strength and nerve. Your fingers ache as you grip the rope, your muscles burning with the effort. Loose stones skitter down, splashing into the dark water below, each sound making your heart jump. Below, you can see the deck of your ship, a small, orderly world you have temporarily left behind. Above, only darkness and the strained breathing of the man ahead of you. This is the essence of your command now, not shouting orders from a high deck, but sharing the same risks as your lowest-ranking Marine, placing your life entirely in the hands of the men you lead. The true weight of command, you realize, is not in the giving of orders, but in the silent, shared climb toward a dangerous unknown. The rough stone of the battlements feels solid and unmoving beneath your palms, a strange sensation after weeks spent on a deck that constantly rises and falls. Below, in the now quiet harbor, your 3 warships ride at anchor, their masts pointing toward a clear sky. The sharp cries of gulls replace the clash of bronze and the shouts of men. From this vantage point, you can see the results of the night's daring plan. The harbor is blockaded, the enemy's vessels are secured, and plumes of controlled smoke rise from the barracks where your Marines are methodically clearing the last pockets of resistance. A gentle breeze drifts up from the water, carrying the clean scent of salt and cooling the sweat on your neck. The complex maneuver, the trust you placed in 2 other captains, has paid off completely. This success was built upon the foundation of your report to the Admiral, a gamble that could have ended your career. Your decision to offer him the unvarnished truth, rather than the polished version a politician might present, earned you this squadron. Looking at the captured fortress, you see the direct consequence of choosing honesty over ambition. The Carthaginian agent, a man whose gold fueled so much chaos along the coast, is now in chains in the island's own dungeon, his network of spies and pirates shattered. His capture sends a message far clearer than any diplomatic envoy could. Roman waters are not to be trifled with. Your Marines move with the disciplined efficiency of the legions, a comforting and familiar sight in this alien, sea-swept landscape. Heavy footsteps on stone announce the arrival of your Optio. He stops beside you, not behind you as he might have in the early days, but at your shoulder, an equal sharing this view. His face, etched with lines carved by sun and sea, is no longer a mask of professional skepticism. Instead, you see a shared exhaustion and a deep, quiet satisfaction. He gazes down at your flagship, the same navis longa you first stepped onto, seeming so small and fragile now compared to the fortress it helped conquer. He doesn't need to speak of the risks you took, of the feigned retreat against the pirates, or the desperate gamble in the fog. He was there for all of it, a steady presence at your side. "The sea has tested you, Centaurian," he says, his voice raspy from the night's shouting. He uses your old rank, but the tone is different now, filled with a respect that was earned, not demanded. And it has not found you wanting. He gestures with his chin toward the open sea beyond the harbor's mouth. It is a different kind of enemy than a line of spearmen. It has no battle plan. It simply is. This simple observation cuts to the heart of everything you have learned. The enemy was never just the pirates or the Carthaginians. It was the sea itself, and you had to learn its ways before you could hope to command upon it. He gives a short, sharp nod and turns to leave, his duty to oversee the prisoners and supplies, calling him back to the world of practical tasks. As you watch him go, his words linger. You are left alone with your thoughts, the vast expanse of blue water stretching to the horizon. You remember the man you were on that first day, a soldier of the land whose sandals felt clumsy on the salt-stained wood. You recall the faces of the crew, wary and unreadable, waiting to see if their new commander would break under the pressure of this new world. A part of you had wanted to impose the harsh discipline of the Legion, to rule through fear, but you chose a different path, and that choice led you here. That path was tested almost immediately in the fury of the storm. You can still feel the icy shock of the rain, the desperate grip on the railing as the world became a churning chaos of wind and water. The decision to turn into the waves, to trust the strength of the ship and the endurance of your men over the treacherous promise of a rocky inlet felt like madness at the time. Yet it was in that shared struggle for survival, soaked and chilled to the bone, that a collection of rowers and marines truly became a crew. They learned to trust you, and more importantly, they learned to trust each other. From that trust, all other victories flowed. It gave you the discipline needed to execute the feigned retreat, turning a pirate ambush into a stunning victory. It gave you the leverage to deal with the corrupt magistrate, securing vital supplies without resorting to brute force. Even the risky decision to spare the pirate leader, an act that went against every instinct of a Roman officer, proved wise. His information was the key that unlocked the entire conspiracy, revealing the Carthaginian hand behind the attacks. Each choice was a link in a chain, leading from a single unidentified sail to the capture of this strategic island. You think of standing before the admiral, the weight of his gaze feeling heavier than any armor. In that moment, you had relayed the truth of your campaign, your successes, your losses, the limits of your own vessel. It was the report of a field commander, not a braggart. That honesty was rewarded not with a medal, but with something far more valuable: more responsibility, more ships, and the authority to act. He saw not a reckless upstart, but a commander who understood the sea and spoke its unforgiving language. This victory, this entire squadron, is the result of that truth. The sounds of the sea, once a harsh mix of unfamiliar noises, are now a language you understand. The groan of rigging, the rhythmic splash of oars, the particular way the wind whistles through a furled sail. These are the sounds of your world now. The water is no longer a formless, hostile entity. It is terrain, with currents like hidden roads and fog banks that can provide cover for an attack. You have learned to read its moods, to respect its power, and to use its nature to your advantage, just as you once learned to use the contours of a hillside in a land battle. Looking down at your hands resting on the stone,
You realize they are the same hands that once gripped a gladius, a Roman short sword, and a shield. They still know the weight of bronze and leather, but they have also learned the feel of a ship's railing, the texture of a sea chart, and the pull of a wet rope. The rigid certainty of the Legion has been tempered by the need for flexibility, for the kind of instinct that cannot be taught in a training yard. You are still a servant of Rome, but your duty is now written in wind and tide. Your gaze drifts back to the horizon, where the sea meets the sky. It is vast, powerful, and indifferent, just as the Optio said. It does not care for the ambitions of Rome or the schemes of Carthage. To sail upon it is to accept its terms. For months you have lived by its rhythm, endured its rages, and used its secrets. The land behind you feels distant, a memory from another life. You came to this command as a soldier sent to the water. You stand here today, a commander forged by it. The solid stone beneath you feels firm, but you know a fundamental part of you has been reshaped by the restless waves. Our journey aboard this Roman warship now finds its quiet harbor for the night. As captain, your command is concluded for the day. The final orders have been given, and the watch has been set. The heavy oars are stowed, the great sail is furled, and the only sound is the gentle slap of water against the hull, a steady, lulling pulse in the darkness. Imagine the great timbers of the vessel settling, a sound of contentment after a long patrol across the Mare Nostrum. The sea is calm, reflecting the same eternal stars that have guided sailors for centuries. The weight of command, the concerns of the voyage, all can be set aside until the morning light. Let this sense of earned tranquility be yours now. Allow the gentle, rocking motion of the anchored ship to carry you into deep, restorative sleep. Rest well, Captain.